Okay, so this is my first of a series that I wanted to start. So this is how I accidentally got sucked into another dimension. So I have to give you the setup. So I just had moved, my sister and I had just moved from Florida to Georgia, and we had just settled into our new apartment, and everything was going good. And my mom back home in Florida, she ended up calling us and letting us know that our uncle had passed in New York, and we wanted to take my grandmother to New York for the funeral, but she did not want to fly, so we had no choice but to drive to New York. Now this was the early 2000s. I can't really remember because this story happened like almost 20 years ago, so I may be leaving out a couple details, but if you have any questions, I'll clear them up. So my sister and I, we had just moved into this apartment. Everything was cool in the apartment. It was a little bit of paranormal things happening in the apartment, but nothing too bad. I'm pretty familiar with that kind of thing. So what we did was, my sister and I, we drove to Florida because that's where my family is from, and we ended up renting a car, and then we were going to drive to New York. So we drove to Florida. We stayed the night at my parents' house. We were there for about a day or two, and then we rented the car. We picked up my grandma, and we were going to drive to New York. So the plan was to drive to Atlanta, because where we had moved. We would drop off my car and then get into rental and take the rest of the way to New York. So we got into the car. We, started our trip. This was a trip that we have done many times before because, like I said, we were in Atlanta and my family's back home in South Florida. So the drive is super easy. We've done it many, many times. And this was no different than any other time than we had made the trip. So we got into the car. My mom and my grandma are in the rental. My sister and I are in my car, and we're driving to Atlanta. I can't remember what time we left Florida, but I want to say we left around maybe 7 or 8, and we were going to be getting into Atlanta in the morning time because it's about a 9-hour drive. So we're driving. It's probably about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and my sister's driving my car, and there is a Jeep Cherokee in front of us. Now we're on the highway, and there's a stretch on the highway where the mile marker will say there's no exit for 25 miles. So we had just passed that mile marker, and I checked the gas, and I'm like, okay, we good on gas, so let's just keep going. So we were driving, and there's this Jeep Cherokee in front of us. Now, mind you, my mom and my grandma, they're trailing us in the rental. So there's a Jeep Cherokee in front of us. My sister's driving. He's kind of swerving in and out of traffic. We're in the slower lane. He's in the fast lane, and he's kind of swerving in and out of traffic. So I turned to my sister. I'm like, hit the gas and get past him. So she was like, okay. So she hit the gas, and we decided we were in the fast lane, and he was swerving between both lanes. So we decided to jump over into the slow lane, pass him, and get in front of him. So she jumped over into the slow lane, and she hit the gas to get past him. And when we got right next to his car, we both looked over. You know how you look over when you see somebody driving stupid. So we looked over, and when we looked over, the car came up off of the ground, and we were stuck where it was there was no gravity. We were literally floating in the air. And when we turn over and to look, I see this being in the car, and he is gray with his neck U'd around. You remember that Missy Elliott video when she had that neck that kind of snaked around? So it was a neck that snaked around. His eyes were blacked out. His face was completely gray, and we were like stuck. So the music stopped playing, the car came off of the ground, we're like literally floating in the air, looking over at this guy or this thing in the car. And my sister's driving, but it's like she's not really driving anymore. It's because we're off the ground. So I wanted to yell so bad, but it was like my voice was like stuck and I couldn't say anything. And finally I was able to like muster out a yell, and I said, go. And when I said go, the car hit the ground and she hit the gas, and then we started driving. And we drove for probably, I can't remember how long we drove for, but we drove in silence because we didn't even know what happened. So I finally turned over to my sister and I'm like, the only thing I could say, I was like, the neck. And then she was like, oh my God. And I knew at that moment that we had saw the same exact thing because we had not discussed it. And I was like, okay, I don't want you to, I'm like, I want you to tell me what you saw. And then she was like, she said the same exact thing. She was like, the neck swerved out like the Missy Elliott video. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So mind you, this is kind of before cell phones. Well, we had a cell phone, but people weren't really using it like that. It didn't go through the car or anything. You actually had to like pick up the cell phone. So I want to say we picked up the cell phone and we called my mom because she's trailing behind us. And then we were like, Ma, did you see that car? That car swerving? And she's like, Monique, there was no car on the road. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, there's no car on the road. She's like, it's just us on the road. There has not been a car that has passed us. I'm like, you have to be kidding me. I'm like, there literally was a car on the road. We saw the car. My mom was like, no, there was no car on the road. There's no entrance into the exit for 25 miles. There's no car on the road. And it was just the craziest, freakiest thing because my sister and we explained it without even talking to each other. And at that moment we had realized that we had got stuck in another dimension. And it was like, if I wasn't able to muster out that yell, I don't know if we would have ever got out of it. It was like time had stopped. We couldn't feel our bodies. We really couldn't see anything. It almost was like an out of body experience. Like we were able to see what was happening, but not really be able to interact with what was happening. So that's one of the craziest stories. But like I said, there's a lot of I've encountered a lot of the supernatural. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I encountered a lot of the supernatural. So if you've ever experienced where you have gone into another dimension, like jump down in the comments and tell me about your experience. And if you have any more questions, just let me know what you want to know.